Koa Pao. This is Kai Opua Fife with the Kiwane Foundation, bringing you another Voices of Truth segment, one-on-one with Hawaii's future, and bumped into Leon Hsu, and we thought we'd try to get, before Leon takes off for Geneva again in a couple days, get a little recap of what's transpired in the last several months and some of the things that are coming up throughout the Pacific that we think Leon may want to share with you. So Leon, mahalo nui.
Oh, sure.
Thank you for being with us. I know you've been on the run quite a bit and just barely catching up before it's time to go again.
That's right.
But I thought it might be an important time to catch you because a lot has transpired since the last time we talked. And I wonder if you want to kind of bring us forward.
Okay. Well, going to Geneva, of course, the reason we're there is to have conversations with and to push the United Nations to actually to do something that will assist us in restoring our independence. And that assistance we're looking for is for the United Nations to reinstate Hawaii on the list of non-self-governing territories. Now, there are 16 countries that are still on this list. And we want to be reinstated to the list. Hawaii and Alaska were both on the list back in 1946, but we were summarily removed in 1959 when the United States reported that Hawaii had chosen to become a domestic state of the United States. So what we're doing is we're going back to the UN and we're saying there was a mistake made here because the United States report in 1959 was a false report, that the Hawaiians never chose to become a state of the United States. And so we're asking basically for like a do-over, where we're asking for the United Nations to put us back onto the list of non-self-governing territories so that we can then decide for ourselves how we want our future governance to be. So this is the basic project. Now, we've been working on this for, of course, quite a number of years. And what has happened recently is that the United Nations has given us some indications that they are considering our request, our petition. And one of the things that happened was in June, one of the United States bodies, the United Nations bodies, the Human Rights Council, actually sent what they call a special rapporteur, like a reporter, a person here to come to Hawaii to talk and to talk to us and then just to investigate as to what the situation is in Hawaii. So we're waiting for his report to be put forth at the Human Rights Council in September.
In the United Nations, of course, the only ones who may request a visit by a special rapporteur are member states, or less officially, academic institutions for informational gathering purposes. So when James Anaya came to the United States as an invitation, the United States sets up the agenda, who he can speak with, where he can go, who he can talk with. And of course, we're not to the point yet where they want to encourage interaction between Hawaiian national people of our persuasion. The United States is not going to use their time with the rapporteur for that. As you recall, what we were able to do once we found out that the special rapporteur James Anaya was willing to come, actually enthusiastic.
Yes.
He couldn't come as a part of a formal invitation from the U.S., but he could come at the invitation of an academic institution. So it did happen that James Anaya came to Hawaii for information gathering and for consultation, and he had several different meetings. What was your feeling about his being here? And you explained to me also what his personal feelings were about Hawaii, too,
right?
I think are really important.
Right. Yeah. From an official standpoint, of course, he did notify the U.S. that he was coming here, so that made it official. He could come. But the great thing was that the United States really did not have a say in whether or not he could come, like you explained.
Yeah.
But it turns out that Jim Anaya had written actually a fairly extensive paper early in his career in 1994. In fact, the year after the Onipa event
Right.
that happened in Hawaii. And he had written a research paper that he had done regarding this special situation in Hawaii. And his recommendation was for Hawaii to be reinstated on the list of non-self-governing territories.
And this is going back to 1994.
1994. So here we are, 2012. I'm inviting him to come here.
Right.
And of course, you and I have both spoken to him in between. So his official visit really was to confirm a conclusion he had already made back in 1994 and to reinforce that. So we're expecting that his report will really treat us in a way that will help assist us moving forward with our petition toward decolonization.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know that from the reports that I heard, and from you also, that there were some huge gathering with the law school.
Yes.
A group from the law school, UH Law School, got together, and then there were several other opportunities to interact with them. And we also had some of our close fellow Hawaiians who got together and started drafting a resolution essentially stating our position on how things got to where they are and what we would like to see happen. And that's evolving. We're continuing to work because we need to involve as many people in the discussion, which so many people have been talking about for years. We've got to have these big discussions and the big involvement. So essentially we sent a first resolution to James Anaya, and I guess we'll see whether or not what gets into what actually makes it into his report. And that'll be interesting.
Yes, and again, we have these petitions in with various places, and particularly with the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the third committee, which is the one that we're anticipating that they are going to go ahead and transmit our request to the next step, which would be the Decolonization Committee under the General Assembly. Now, it seems like there are lots of different steps, and there are, but what we're doing is we're not really asking the UN to create a new country out of Hawaii. What we're saying is that according to their own procedures, there is a way for us to claim our right to self-determination, which they really had guaranteed to us back in 1946, that right. But that right had been rescinded inadvertently by the UN when they accepted the U.S.'s report of statehood. So what we're saying to them is that this is a procedural matter. We're not asking them to take a political position, but just that the procedures weren't followed properly, and that put us into a situation where we were not able to determine for ourselves what we wanted for our future. So we're just asking them to follow procedures and to put us back onto that list. The role that James Anaya can play in this is basically as another opinion or another through his report to say, yes, these people, what they're saying is true, that they were deprived of the opportunity to determine for themselves. So that he would recommend that something be done by the UN to give us back this opportunity. Even something like the Hawaiian Role Commission is bringing out the discussion, and I had some very good discussions with persons, community or government leaders, former government leaders, who are saying there's no doubt that Hawaii is under occupation. And so anything that is created to further that occupation is a violation in itself. And so what they're saying is that really the only avenue open is independence. So this is becoming more better understood in
Right.
the last few years, and particularly in the last few months, by even those who had been adamantly entrenched in the system of the statehood of,
Right.
of Hawaii.
Right.
They're saying, we see now that Hawaii has been wrongfully occupied and is being wrongfully occupied, and any remedy that is being presented by the United States short of independence is unacceptable.
Right. Right.
And so the UN is beginning to see that what we've been saying is in reality is what is exactly what developing here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we're showing them and demonstrating to them. So, so having James Anaya come as a special rapporteur, this is what he's, we're showing him. The third committee is also sending a special rapporteur to Hawaii sometime in the next few months.
Right.
And so the interest is definitely there at the United Nations, and it's our job to demonstrate to them that our political will, that Hawaii is very much, that Hawaiians are very much attuned to the fact that we deserve to make the decision ourselves. That's
Well,
the way
and
we
it's,
want to
and
go.
it's up to us to keep the momentum and build
Yeah.
the momentum, because all this work in Geneva over the years, actually decades and decades, really has led us to a point where now we have to take another big step and then enter another arena to carry it forward.
Right,
And that's some of the things that are coming up for us in the future,
right.
but very closely in the future. And that will have to do with participation at the UN in New York, closer to the Decolonization Committee and General Assembly.
That's right. Yes, we have to be speaking now to the next level of people who will be receiving this petition
Right.
and talk with them. And at the same time, we have to also be speaking to nations that are friendly to us, friendly to our cause.
Right.
And by doing so, we help to encourage the Decolonization Committee as well as other bodies within the UN. From a legal standpoint, from a political standpoint, it really, I see it as a foregone conclusion that we have everything going for us. We are indeed a nation in formation, and we're moving forward, and whether or not the UN does come through with these procedures, it doesn't matter, because we're still moving forward, and we're claiming this for ourselves. I don't see how the UN can actually deny it in the long run. But as long as we continue to build our nation from within, as well as to speak to people outside of our nation, I believe that this is inevitable.
You were actually at the UN in New York in May, again for the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. And I think that was I think this was a major get-together this time, this last May. I think there was a lot of things accomplished, a lot of things that came into focus for a lot of other indigenous groups, and coalescing.
Right. Yes. Not just indigenous groups. I think we're looking also at other peoples that have that right to self-determination as well. Groups, nations, peoples, and nations. That some are indigenous and some are not, but they're nations that have historically been a people, a defined people, and they're looking also. And I'm not talking about just the 16 that are on the list of decolonization. There are many others, and we're talking like Rapa Nui, Easter Island. We're talking about Tahiti, who have been taken off the lists as well, but they are still a people who are seeking independence.
Right.
And so what has happened over the last few years is that we have begin a conversation with all of these different nations, with the people, representatives of those nations. So we are in the process of forming a coalition or an association of a mutual support group in which we can advocate for one another and support one another, as well as we can help to hold up a presence and a profile, keep a high profile before the United Nations and other countries about the aspirations for independence among all of these different peoples. We're at the point where we're about ready to explode all over the globe, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, and people are asking us to come, and they're saying, we want to be in conversation with you.
Right.
We're getting invitations from other nations
Right.
that could be instrumental in moving us forward at the UN level, as well as just on a strictly nation-to-nation level.
Right.
So, you know, we're getting invitations that we actually cannot accept right now.
Yeah.
But we're trying to keep the conversation open so that hopefully in the future we will, one, have some funding and also the personnel
Right.
that can go and represent us.
Yeah.
So we're really looking at the reawakening of Hawaii's, at one time, massive diplomatic force
Oh my
that we
goodness.
had all over I think,
And that's exactly what we need now.
yeah, I think it's possibly true that Hawaii had the most diplomatic representation around the world in the 1890s.
Really.
Yeah. We had over 90, somebody said the other day, 99 legations of diplomatic
That's right. I remember
legations
that
around the
number.
world. Yeah.
It was actually higher than your research had
Yeah,
proven, because
yeah.
there was some additional documentation that had been revealed.
Yeah, so they said it was 99, and I said,
Yeah.
"Are you sure 99? Why not just almost 100?"
Yeah.
They said, "No, it's exactly 99."
99. And I can prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that discussion, and that's great. Well, I know a lot of progress could be made just by getting those together who have already committed, who have already put huge amounts of work into it, and getting together to agree on what we can agree on and working together within that context. You know,
Right.
and there are a lot of well-informed individuals, groups that are in that position, but we hope we can somehow induce them to become willing to co-mingle, you know, resources, their mana'o, and just get on board and pick up a piece of the work.
Yeah.
And that's been, you know, it's been attempted several times, but I think the time is getting to where that can really be made to happen. So I guess we'll keep working on statements or papers or issue papers or resolutions, and hoping to encourage an ever-expanding number of people to sign on and become active
Yes.
and participate in the drafting of these statements. If we look back historically, so much has been documented going back, you know, to shortly after the 1893 event. That so much of what was perceived at that time was right on. And we really need to get simple and
Yes.
relate to it, get together, and then pick up and move forward from that point. Even if we could just pick up at the point where our kupuna left us with the Kuwait petitions and move forward from there.
Right. Well, I'm very hopeful, and I think I had mentioned earlier this Hawaiian role. I'm not endorsing it at all.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is it is actually creating a situation, just like the Akaka Bill did, in helping us define who we really are. And I mean, helping us, showing us who we don't want to be
Right.
Under that role or
Yeah.
under the Akaka Bill. But as at the same time, who we really are. And I think that this is going to be a defining year. I think the year of this Hawaiian role activity is going to really bring out a way that we can really focus on who we are as a people by identifying who we're not.
There's nothing to awaken people like a real threat right in front of their face
Right.
that makes them have to deal with it.
Right.
We're kind of getting into a different kind of a ball game.
Yes.
You know, we'll have to although, you know, the alliances and the personal relationships that have been built up in Geneva can somehow, I know, be carried over, I think, through the capitals
Right.
to the state representatives, member states of the UN in New York. But we still have to learn another game, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be dealing less with the structures within the UN and dealing more directly with the countries.
Right, right. Because that's where we need essentially the support of the individual state members. I applaud your ongoing energy and commitment. It's been a long run, and rest assured there's many more miles to go.
Well,
But we are seeing progress.
yes.
And if we can just pass on that optimism, and it's really important that we keep our people updated as to what's going on so they can know that there's progress, but also that they can become familiar with what has to be done and what is being done. You know, to
Well,
ask them to take a share in it
yes.
and to support the effort.
Yeah, well, and I really appreciate the support from the Kiwani Foundation because, you know, I'm there actually representing the Kiwani Foundation as well as our nation, or that Kiwani Foundation is providing me the opportunity and the platform to be there so that I can speak, and so we can all speak, you know, to these different countries. So the Kiwani Foundation having supported these trips as well as allowing us to speak on their behalf has been just really key.
Well, again, appreciate the update. We'll be touching bases periodically. I know that in the communities you're reaching out and communicating as much as you can. And so good luck in Geneva. And we'll look forward to a safe return
Okay.
before your next sojourn out.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank all of you for watching. This is Kaupua 5 for the Kiwani Foundation Voice of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's future. Mahalo and a hui hou.
Mahalo for watching Voices of Truth one-on-one with Hawaii's Future. Watch us on the web 24/7 at voicesoftruth.tv.com. You'll find all our shows, including this one, in case you want to see it again or share it with family and friends. Also view our weekly video commentaries at freehawaiitv.com. And check out our blog, published daily, at freehawaii.info. It's all part of the Free Hawaii Broadcasting Network.